They always show like in like a cartoon, you'll see like several children in a trench coat at the height of one adult.
Sure, yeah.
Do you think that those 2 to 3 children in a trench coat can do a slam dunk? Or do you think they would lack the coordination necessary to do a slam dunk?
I mean, they definitely can do a slam dunk.
Do you think you and I could do a slam dunk in tandem somehow?
No.
Here's the thing. I think you could, like, I obviously...
You're asking me if I think we conform to the rules of a cartoon? No.
My question is, like, clearly you were smaller than me. I can lift you. Do you think you could get onto my shoulders, even with the use of, like, a chair or a ladder or something like that? Because if you could stand on my shoulders, then our combined height is over the height of a basketball hoop. So clearly we could...
So we would just walk up to it and put the ball in. Is that a slam dunk?
Well, you got to give it some razzle-dazzle. You can't just put it in.
I mean, I actually would like to see someone do the slam dunk contest by just... doing an Orange Cassidy, basically. Like walking slowly up to the hoop, reaching up, putting the ball in it, and then walking away.
The people who famously win the slam dunk contest are like not the people who are 7 feet tall, because it doesn't look as cool for them to do it. It's
the
always
vertical jump is the cool.
Yeah, right, exactly. So like certainly there's that Victor Wembanyama, that guy that I've mentioned who's like 7'5". He can like, I think, dunk without jumping. He can just sort of go on his tippy toes. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's a dunk, but there's like different ways of doing that. You can just plop it in, or you can like perform, you could wag your tongue and go like shit talk your opponent and sort of hang off of it. There's a famous one where Shaq dunked on somebody and like thrust his groin into the person as he was dunking over them. The other person didn't like it though.
Yeah, I mean, that's always a risk.
Well, welcome to the seeding business. The business of seeding. This is the song for March Madness, I guess.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with it, but maybe
me
there's
neither.
No way anybody who's listening to this is familiar with it either, probably. But this is the song for we can't technically use the term March Madness, I don't think. This is Mulch Madness.
What are we, doughboys?
All right, so welcome to our podcast known as the seeding business, the business of doing the seeding of teams for the purposes of a tournament.
Of a bracket? Seeding a bracket?
Seeding a bracket, yeah.
Okay.
That's our new podcast. This is what we do from now on.
No, this is what the podcast always has been.
And always will be.
Yeah, get it straight. Don't confuse people by telling them that it's new and different.
Today we're going to be engaging with what I've titled Mulch Madness, the Brassket-Buster Cruciferous Championship of 2024.
Yeah, so just the doughboys.
Mulch
Madness Tournament
Madness.
of Champions.
Mulch Madness.
Do Quiero Talco Bell. For whom the bell does.
This isn't that many parts. Mulch Madness Brassket-Buster Cruciferous Championship 2024. So we're going to do a bracket today, folks. It's going to be all brassicas. Hence it's going to be a brasket, which rolls off the tongue.
Okay.
So here's some rules that I put together. So I gave you this brasket, which I'm going to insist you call it, a little while ago, but I said don't.
Is it a basket? A bracket? Why is it a brasket?
It's a bracket, but for brassicas.
But why is it a ket? Why isn't it just a
brasset?
I don't know.
Bracket.
It makes it sound like it's a basket.
Because there's a K in bracket. Brasket. Here are some rules. So this is a classic single elimination tournament in the style of March Madness. It's going to have 16 total brassicas. 16 total brassicas. 4 groups, 4 vegetables in each group. So there's a 1 through 4 seed in each group. So 1 vegetable will emerge from each of the 4 groups into what I like to call a final 4, which I've coined just now. And then we'll have a semifinal and championship round as well. We're not like each completing a brasket independently and then like competing against each other or something like that. We're just talking through it together to arrive at our champion. Before we begin, we can make some minor changes to the brasket. For example, if you feel like something was very important was omitted, or you think something was grossly miscategorized or something, we can address that. But I think for the purposes of this endeavor, you have to accept my seeding, my ranking of stuff, because changing the seeding would just sort of be tantamount to picking the winner, right? We want to make sure that sometimes a 3 seed can upset a 1 seed or something like that. And I tried to not take my own personal prejudices into account when I made the seed ranking. But I tried to make the seeding by what like this sort of cultural importance of that brassica is. How famous, how often you see it in a grocery store, how much people eat it, and not based on, my personal preferences, which largely mirror yours anyway. So, okay. And then finally, obviously part of the deal with brassicas is that, all these things are like more or less the same plant. So there may be vegetables in the tournament that are just like different parts of the same plant that are in different groups, just due to like the notable qualities of that part of the plant, how they're eaten, stuff like that. I urge you to accept this. However, despite the inherent limitations of seeding, I think we can consider the different ways in which a listed plant might be used. So, for instance, when you see cabbage on there, you don't just have to consider like a head of cabbage. You could consider its utility in like kimchi or something like that.
Okay, what about like the research brassicas?
I don't know what you mean by that.
Well, there's no like research category.
Like how good they are to do science with?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, well,
or how much of a product of science they are. Like canola.
Oh, interesting.
Or obviously Arabidopsis is the lead research plant.
That's not obvious to me, but if you would like, we can do the way that something like that is usually handled is we could create a pre-group where one of those research plants comes out of that group and then replaces one of the seeds in this, if you would like.
That sounds like something that should have happened before recording.
All right, this sounds like bad audio.
Yeah, it sounds like bad audio to me.
All right, let's go with in general what we got. Let me read what we've got going on here, and then if you want to make some changes, we can do that. So we've got 4 groups. We've got the salad greens group, the root vegetable group, the Brocco/cabbage group, not well named, but it's hard to...
It should be called the heading group.
Okay, heading group.
And I think the salad greens should just be called the greens because they could be eaten cooked.
Okay. So let's make those adjustments already. So we've got the greens group, the root vegetable group, the heading group, and the spice group. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that works.
All right, so let me go through each group. I'll just read the 1 through 4 seeds in each group. And again, I don't want to reseed stuff, but if you think, this doesn't belong there, or, you think something should be present that is not. For instance, I was trying to get bok choy into here somewhere, but I just couldn't really get it in. If you like,
there's a ton of brassicas that don't fit into these categories. They do all sorts of things. They look all sorts of ways.
Yeah.
I think you're fine to just go with the groups you've made. I don't think trying to negotiate a little switch here and there is really...
Okay, so with March Madness, there's usually like a number 1 overall seed, but I don't know if that is necessarily true in this scenario. So which group do you want to start with?
Well, wait, how does March Madness usually start? Do you start with I guess they're regions, but still, like, do you start with the group that the favorite to win is in, or do you start with the group that is probably going to get out early?
I don't exactly, neither one of us watch March Madness, so this is like a pretty gross parody of the whole event. So I'm not exactly sure how it works.
I don't know how you're supposed to do this, but I was going to say let's do root vegetables first.
Right, let's start with root vegetables. So here are the seeds. The number 1 seed in root vegetables is the turnip.
Sure, yeah.
The humble turnip. The star of Stardew Valley. The humble turnip.
I think it's actually parsnips that you grow in Stardew Valley.
Oh, those aren't brassicas. Wait, is it turnips in, what's that other game?
Animal Crossing?
Animal Crossing.
Yeah, I think they grow a lot of turnips in Animal Crossing.
Okay. Turnips are the parsnip of Animal Crossing. So our number 1 seed is turnip. The number 2 seed is the rutabaga. The number 3 seed is kohlrabi, which you can also argue is not exactly a root vegetable.
It's not exactly a root, right? It's like a very round stem.
Yeah, right. So this is, there's some playing fast and loose with some stuff. And the number 4 seed, I chose the maca root.
Which is, like, people take that as in pill form.
To get horny. Yeah.
To get horny?
I think so, yeah.
Do you get horny if you eat it as a vegetable?
I don't know. Why wouldn't you?
I mean,
she'd have every excuse to get horny.
I guess I'm wondering, is it so potent as a drug that you can take a pill-sized amount of it and something will happen? Like, how much broccoli would you have to eat for it to be
psychoactive,
medically active? Yeah.
Good question. People do eat maca root as food, but
that seems like that should be the way that people are consuming it to get horny. I do not believe you can put enough in a pill for it to do anything
from it. Yeah.
Even if I first assume that it can make you horny.
I choose to believe it. So the way seeding works, we've got the first round is number 1 versus number 4, and then number 2 versus number 3. So turnip versus maca root. It's an intriguing matchup. I have no particular love of turnips. Some people do. They're, of course, I believe they are currency in Animal Crossing.
Right, yeah.
What's your experience with turnip?
I mean, they're fine. I feel like I haven't eaten them that many times.
I've definitely had them on Thanksgiving in the past a bunch. Like, they're primarily a holiday food culturally for us.
You might be thinking of parsnips if you're thinking of our Thanksgivings.
Not our Thanksgivings.
Okay.
Yeah, past Thanksgivings. I had a lot of turnips, I think, with Sweston's family for Thanksgivings. Maybe it's like a regional thing still.
Maybe. I mean, my grandparents were pretty into turnips, I think. So it might, that's sort of mid-Atlantic.
Yeah. I think that's probably it. So, I don't think the overall winner is coming out of the root vegetable category. There's some real powerhouses in some of these other categories. Do you think there's a case to be made that the maca root, because of how unbelievably horny it makes us?
Yeah, I think that's the obvious winner here.
Okay, wow. You think we're starting immediately with a underdog story?
Again, I don't understand how it's an underdog story. 3 of these are kind of you're matching up middle of the road vegetable that I don't really consume, turnip, with plant that claims to make you horny if you eat like 1/8 of a teaspoon of it. What other vegetables do that?
It means that if you eat a full serving of it, then you are like fucking blowing your load real good and quick.
What argument could you possibly make in favor of turnip over that? I don't understand how.
4 seed in an upset. I'm writing it down. We've got maca root upsetting turnip in the first round. We've got 4 seed moving into the Elite 8 already.
Wow.
All right. Next matchup is rutabaga versus kohlrabi.
I mean, kohlrabi looks cool.
It's beautiful in its appearance, certainly.
You don't like broccoli stems.
I think that they're difficult to be the right amount of tough. Like you can't eat raw broccoli stems or else you're like trying to bite through rock, basically. Like it's difficult to get through.
How do you feel about kohlrabi?
It's difficult sometimes. It can be difficult depending on how it's prepared. I've had problems with the texture of kohlrabi in the past, even though it looks good and it does taste good. And when it's prepared well, it is good. It's good.
All right. Well, the Doughboys are going to sue us.
We've not infringed. If March
good.
Madness
No, they've got some sort of copyright on. It's good.
It's good.
I provide no further assessment, no description of why it is good. Just it's good or it's not good. Those are the options.
Okay. What about rutabaga?
I don't know that much about rutabaga.
I mean,
it's another one I haven't had that much
served
in my life.
Like it's more important in Europe than it is here for sure. I have had it, and I think I've had it when traveling. It's like mashed. You would eat mashed rutabaga in the way that you would like mashed potatoes. I think it's flavorful. I've seen rutabaga juice before, but I think it's like mashed with butter and cream a lot, which is, I mean, a terrific presentation for anything, and root vegetables in particular. Yeah, I mean, I've eaten it and liked it in that way.
So it sounds like you're coming down on rutabaga.
Well, I mean, it's seated slightly higher than kohlrabi because I think it is more people have name recognition for it and an understanding of what it is than kohlrabi.
Is that how they make the brackets? I don't understand.
They make the brackets by which basketball team has won the most games in a season. And I don't think
would you say that rutabaga has won more games than kohlrabi?
Yes.
All right.
So that's why it's seated above it. But now we have to come out with a winner. So let's put it this way. I think that rutabaga is a more famous, more widely eaten in the sort of United States of America than kohlrabi is. But I think we personally have eaten and enjoyed kohlrabi more frequently in the past.
Wow, this is going into extra innings.
I don't know. What do you think? I like both of these. Honestly, although turnip was the 1 seed, I would have put rutabaga or kohlrabi above like turnip in my personal preference.
Your personal ranking.
Yeah.
I think we should move rutabaga.
All right.
On to the next.
All right. So rutabaga was the favorite in that round. It continues on. Yeah, it's one of the only things on this list that you would. Well, there's another one in one of the other groups that maybe you would have mashed with a bunch of cream and butter and stuff, which is a universally good way to prepare something, but we'll get to that in a little bit. All right, so this first group, we've got going to the Elite 8, number 4 seed Macaroon and number 2 seed Rutabaga. What's our next group?
The spice group.
All right.
These are spicy.
Yeah.
Brassicas.
These are spicy. And of course, brassicas, like, a lot of brassicas are spicy, right? They have some elements of spice, but here is our seeding for this group. The number 1 seed in this group, mustard.
Which raises the question, there's no seed group.
Right. That's right. Yeah. So I like I said earlier, where I was like, okay, well, cabbage, you can, consider kimchi. I think with mustard, you can consider mustard seed as well as mustard greens.
Okay.
Just, as a sort of broadly understanding it. So we've got the number 1 seed mustard, the number 2 seed horseradish, the number 3 seed wasabi, and the number 4 seed, the radish itself, as you would slice up and put in a salad.
Sure.
So the matchups are number 1 seed mustard versus 4 seed radish, and number 2 seed horseradish versus 3 seed wasabi. So let's start with mustard versus radish.
Okay.
What are your thoughts?
I mean, it's hard to make an argument for radish here.
It's a blowout. Yeah,
right?
You're going to get some blowouts. And I think that's fair. I will say that as a child, I really loved radishes.
I did too.
My grandfather grew them and I would eat them out of the garden.
Right. So the classic trick is because radishes grow very quickly. You plant a few radish seeds everywhere you're planting anything to mark the row so you know where stuff has already been planted because it grows really fast. So if you grow anything throughout the early part of the growing season, you're constantly harvesting small amounts of radishes. And also they grow early. They grow in cold weather. So they're one of the first, besides taking only a few days to be ready to harvest, they also grow when it's still cool.
Yeah.
So I have similar memories of my grandparents harvesting radishes and those being really good.
Yeah, I would not characterize myself as a huge heat seeker, but
wow, I can't believe you're courting a lawsuit like this.
But I like, in all honesty though, like the amount, like I like things a little spicy, and radishes, well, like when I was a kid, I would eat them. I'd be like, ooh, that's like a little.
It's a little spicy.
Sure. Yeah, it's like the amount that I wanted. It felt like fun on my tongue, and I like the taste of them.
They've got good crunch.
So they've got good crunch. This is all to say that even in spite of those things, I think it's hard not to move mustard on here.
Yeah.
All right. So number 1 seed mustard moves on. And then we've got 2 seed horseradish versus 3 seed wasabi, which is an intriguing matchup, I think, because of course, if you get, wasabi as a, if you get some sushi in this country at a not high level place, then in almost all cases, the wasabi you get is food colored horseradish paste, right?
Yep.
It's a little hard to disentangle those things, but do you have thoughts?
Well, I mean, you and I are familiar with real wasabi because
we are.
One always, I mean, you should just always keep a tube of wasabi from Japan in your refrigerator if you like it at all. You can't count on those weird little packets or. Yeah.
Do you, for people maybe who have not had wasabi, not from weird little packets, can you characterize the flavor note distinction?
So I think even Japanese people would readily say as well that like the stuff in the tube, as with many prepared products versus fresh, is like absolutely not the same as the freshly ground root where you like have a special little like rough. It's not really a grater. It's like a rough surface that you grind it on.
Yeah.
It's more, I mean, I think it has a greater depth of flavor. It's hard to say what that other note is. Like it has the same kind of heat as horseradish, but then it has
that back end heat.
It has is that not football?
I don't know. No, that's a tight end. No, we're not. I'm not.
Listen, let's get this in the end zone. It has a sort of astringent green taste.
I will say that I stopped eating meat, when I met you 11 years ago for the most part. Prior to that, I was a meat eater. And I really loved, horseradish itself has some great utility in sandwiches. When I lived in Philadelphia and worked at that deli, the sandwich I always really liked was the hot roast pork sandwich. You would have broccoli rabe, which could have been its own category on here.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a notable.
Yeah, it's omission. A notable omission for me because I really like broccoli rabe. But it just it is what it is.
Yeah.
But the sandwich would have broccoli rabe, hot roast pork, and horseradish on it. And I always thought it was a really great presentation of horseradish. Of course, it's used in some religious contexts that we are both.
You're talking about Passover?
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't know. I was
part
trying
of
to,
the Seder.
Yeah, I was trying to not to imply that we all do that in a way that was appropriative or anything like that. But it is part of the Passover Seder. You know, it has that utility. So I don't know. What do you think about this matchup?
I would say if you were going to, say, make cocktail sauce and use wasabi instead of horseradish, I don't think you'd really notice, right? You wouldn't be missing anything.
Right.
But if you were to eat sushi with horseradish, it would be a huge bummer.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sensitive to that. I think that in any context, and again, with maybe apart from the religious one here, I'm not making any claims about that, but in any other, I'm trying to think of that hot roast pork sandwich, if it would be even better with real, like wasabi on it instead of horseradish. And you know what? Maybe it would be.
I mean, hard to say, but it wouldn't be worse.
It wouldn't be worse, yeah. All right, well, let's move on. Number 3 seed wasabi in that case. So we've got coming out of this spice group in the first round, number 1 seed mustard, number 3 seed wasabi. I will link to this bracket, by the way, an empty bracket if you want to fill out your own with us in the notes.
Just thought of one more use for wasabi, which was when I was in college, people would sometimes snort it to stay awake so they could study more.
Why did they do that instead of snorting Adderall or something? If they couldn't get some Adderall, they would just use wasabi.
Well, we had a tradition of during finals, during like the reading and finals week periods, the library would be open 24 hours, and then there would be the lobby of the library would be staffed 24/7 with these big tables, and we called it the STEM table.
Oh boy, I have something I can't say on air about this.
And it would constantly serve every stimulant, every legal stimulant and some illegal stimulants that anybody could find. Like some of our student body fees went to buying all this dumb stuff. So there would be like weird little like vials of stuff from like the traditional Chinese medicine store. There would be the cheapest cigarettes. That's the time when I started coughing blood from smoking bonus value brand cigarettes. That's because they were at the STEM table. So I just started smoking them and then I started coughing up blood. Powdered wasabi you could snort.
Cool. There
would be, a Mr. Coffee or whatever. Just basically any kind of stimulant, it would just be there. Mate. And sometimes, I don't know what else. I know some of the other things that would be there.
All right, let's move into another group here. We've got some heavy hitters in both of these next groups. I could see a winner coming out of the last group here, but I could definitely see a winner coming out of each one of these next groups. Where you want to go next?
Well, why don't you pick the next one?
All right, let's go to the greens group.
Okay.
So here we've got our number 1 through 4 seeds of number 1 seed kale, number 2 seed arugula, number 3 seed collard greens, number 4 seed watercress, which I put a lot of thought into what should be the 4th seed here. And I was looking for something maybe, you could make an argument for some other greens, but I was looking for something that wasn't just like almost exclusively eaten cooked, I guess, that it could have salad utilities. So I ended up going with watercress.
That's why you were asking me about Mizuna.
Yeah, it was why I was asking about Mizuna. That's right. So we've got our number 1 seed kale versus 4 seed watercress, and number 2 seed arugula versus number 3 seed collard greens. So let's go kale watercress.
I like peppery greens, and I like not having to chop things into tiny pieces and massage them.
Sure, yeah, that's a lot in favor of watercress.
But I do really like kale. I certainly eat it way more often than I eat watercress.
Sure, you put it in smoothies. Probably some of our favorite salads that we make, even if we don't make them that often, are kale based.
Yep.
Like it sort of has there's like a right amount of toughness, I think. Like you can dress it pretty heavily and it doesn't get fucked up by that. It stands up to that.
It's still good the next day if you make a big batch and don't finish it. I mean, I think also from the perspective of what do more people eat a lot, certainly kale. I mean, kale has been on a hot streak for 20 years now.
Yeah. It's like the Duke basketball or something of this tournament. It's been hot for a long time. I would be willing to hear an argument for watercress from you if you'd like to make one, but in the absence of that, I think for me it's probably kale moving on.
I mean, I think kale's the pretty obvious choice here.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Kale, number 1 seed. Expect number 1 seeds to move on typically. All right, now we've got arugula versus collard greens.
Well, as a white person,
I mean,
I don't think actually I feel qualified to make this determination.
Now that I think about it, this is the most racially divided of these categories here. Really is. It's treacherous territory. We both love it. It's impossible to not move on arugula. It's our favorite.
It's our favorite, of course.
It is, of course, our late cat's favorite food, too.
Yeah.
So, something in my mind would have to be really special in this tournament to take down arugula. And it might happen, but I just don't think it's going to happen in this first round, despite, collard greens being delicious.
Yeah, I have no comment.
I mean, we got to move on arugula.
Of course. I mean, I love arugula. I'm just saying this as a matchup.
Yeah.
I feel like it's unfair. It's really unfairly weighted to our tastes.
Yeah. Well, no,
on this particular one.
Yeah. Maybe. I mean, I maybe should have seeded collard greens above arugula, but I think arugula moves out of this matchup anyway. I will say that collard greens will never now have a chance to go up against kale, but I probably would have put collard greens probably is second in this grouping to me, but I just don't think it can take down arugula. I think arugula's got to move on.
I mean, arugula has a lot going for it. You can eat it raw, you can eat it cooked, but you don't have to do anything special to prepare it, right? You don't have to pull out woody stems. You don't have to massage it. You don't have, right? It's just like easy.
It tastes good too. That's the thing.
Good
it's
on its own.
Just tastes good.
Yeah. It's true. It's all true.
All right. So we've got, coming out of the greens group, the favorites, the number 1 seed kale, the number 2 seed arugula. Finally, the group that we have renamed on the fly to the heading group. We have seeded 1 through 4. Number 1 seed broccoli, the behemoth. Really, in many respects, you could probably consider that to be the number 1 overall seed of this tournament, broccoli. We've got number 2 seed, also a powerhouse, cabbage. The number 3 seed, also really, I mean, this is really a heavy hitter group. Number 3 seed, we've got Brussels sprouts. And the number 4 seed, we got cauliflower. So I've this one, so the first round pairings are number 1 seed broccoli versus 4 seed cauliflower, which is an intriguing first round matchup. And then you've got cabbage versus Brussels sprouts, also an intriguing first round matchup, I think. So broccoli v. cauliflower.
Well, I assume cauliflower is what you meant when you said earlier that there's another item on this list that's good mashed with butter and cream.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is. That's true.
Yeah. It's got a lot of people like to use it. I don't think we are these people, but a lot of people like to use it if they're allergic to gluten as like a crust for stuff, like cauliflower crust for pizza and...
horrible.
It doesn't seem like I've tried it. I don't think it is that good, but I mean, if
people use it as a substitute for rice.
For rice, yeah.
Basically, people are just like, well, it's white.
It's white. So. Is that why, though? I mean, it's like, it has a pretty muted flavor, so that's probably part of it, too.
That's part of it.
When I was a kid...
But I think...
Go ahead.
I think it has something of that, like...
Carrot looks like a hot dog.
Yes, where carrots are used in place of cheese or meat in some vegan dishes, where it's like, remember that vegan cheese dip I made that was orange because it had pureed carrots in it. And it's there's no reason that you would want the taste of carrots in your supposed queso.
Yeah, that's true. I will say that as a kid, we didn't eat like a huge diversity of vegetables. Like it was, a lot of boiled one of four things, like we had like a zucchini and we had green beans from a can, which I love to this day, green beans from a can. But then we had broccoli or cauliflower. And I'm trying to remember as a kid if I heard we were going to have broccoli versus if I heard we were going to have cauliflower, and which I preferred. I think I will say this. We both grew up in the 80s and 90s, and I had parents, unlike yours probably, who boiled a lot of vegetables. Boiled cauliflower is a better outcome than boiled broccoli, I think.
Broccoli doesn't really tolerate overcooking.
Right.
Cauliflower, you can cook it to a full range of donenesses. You can have it anywhere between raw and just boiled to hell. Mm-hmm. Or roasted or whatever. I mean, it roasts beautifully. We have a cauliflower pasta dish we really like to make. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Not where we substitute cauliflower for pasta.
We use the cauliflower as a base for the sauce. And it's good. I mean, it's very garlicky and buttery and it's good.
It is good. I think when I was a kid, absolutely no doubt, if they said cauliflower, I would be like, oh, gross. And if they said broccoli, I would be into it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we should consider, like I said, the different ways you can use it. So cauliflower, we've talked about a lot, or different variety. Like broccoli, we baby broccoli quite a bit, which I think has sort of uses that go beyond standard broccoli.
Is that different from broccoli rabe?
No, it is broccoli. I mean, it is, I guess.
You just called it baby broccoli, but really we consider it to be different. It's not, it didn't make it. It got knocked out at the...
I guess you're right. The pre-tournament stage.
32? I don't know what they...
All right. So what do you think? Broccoli v. cauliflower.
This is legitimately the most difficult decision so far.
I think it is the most difficult decision so far, but that's only because the next one is really a rich problem to unpack, I think. But like the last first round matchup we're about to get to, but this one so far is the most challenging.
I mean, cauliflower does have more different applications.
Yeah.
But broccoli is just an everyday vegetable where probably the average American household has broccoli every week, right? I mean, to the extent that they eat,
to think that's true.
To the extent that they eat vegetables, right? If you're eating a green vegetable, odds are, and it's not iceberg lettuce,
cheddar broccoli soup from Panera or something like that. I mean, even my mother will eat that these days. You think we should move on broccoli?
I think, yeah. Okay. I mean, again, looking at it from sort of at a global level.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on broccoli. No shame, cauliflower's performance. There's no shame there. All right, so our final first round matchup is in here in this heading group is the number 2 seed cabbage versus the number 3 seed Brussels sprouts.
Well, this is impossible because Brussels sprouts are just tiny cabbages.
Yeah, I mean, that's why this is such a fun category for me. Yeah, I mean... So the cabbage as kimchi argument is pretty compelling to me.
Kimchi, sauerkraut, coleslaw.
Yeah, all the fermented ways.
Or like I'm just thinking of all the very different preparations people do with it, right?
Yeah.
Soups, raw, roasted,
yeah,
salads. I mean, just everything.
Yeah, it's like it's all of that versus the best thing you'll ever eat is like roasted caramelized Brussels sprouts, right? Like that's
a really crispy.
Yeah, that's like the best tasting thing that exists almost. Like it's all those myriad presentations of cabbage versus how good that singular dish is if it's done well of roasted Brussels sprouts. I will say we as we do with kale, make Brussels like shredded raw Brussels sprout salad that is also very good. There's no reason why that couldn't be cabbage, I guess, but
yeah.
I mean it's smaller. It's a little more tender, I think.
It is. It is. Although I wonder if, like the way they do with baby carrots, where they're just regular carrots that have been shaved down and tumbled in a machine, like if they started selling just the very innermost, tiniest morsel of the cabbage and like peeling all of the outer leaves away and selling those in some other product.
Baby cabbage. Yeah.
And they had little baby cabbages and you would buy like a bag full of them and there wouldn't be any stalk to cut away.
Yeah.
I don't know. What would you think about that?
I think they were Brussels sprouts.
But do you think they're better than Brussels sprouts though? They might be better.
I don't know. I don't know how to know.
I mean, Brussels sprouts are famously strong tasting of brassicas.
They are, but they like mellow out so well in presentation.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is I wonder if they wouldn't stand up to the preparation in the same way. They wouldn't bring, like if you did cabbage the way you would do roasted Brussels sprouts, I'm sure it would be good, but it wouldn't bring a bitter note to the dish, which I think is part of what's good about it.
All right, so you're making an argument to move Brussels sprouts on?
I'm not making
this one's hard.
Any argument of any kind. I do think,
I could see a scenario where either one of these go all the way, actually. Like sometimes you get a first round matchup where it's like, well, either one of these is going to leave in the first round and the other one could win the whole thing. And I think that's something that's happening here.
What do you think?
It's a big
should
decision.
Move on here.
My brain says cabbage, but my gut says Brussels sprouts. Why don't we say 1, 2, 3, and then say the one we want?
Well,
maybe it'll be the same one.
Again, like what's our criteria?
There's no criteria.
Because like looking ahead at the matchups,
no, don't look
right?
ahead at the matchups.
I mean,
don't look ahead at the matchups. Ready?
If we're going to use the same rationale we used for rutabaga, then it's got to be cabbage. But if we're going to use the rationale we used for, wasabi, then it's going to be Brussels sprouts.
Mm-hmm.
Like right. We've used two different rubrics here in different brackets. So now what do? We've painted ourselves into a corner.
We're just people.
You got to take the slap shot.
Wait, what the hell does that mean?
I don't know. I'm trying to say sports stuff.
All right. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Brussels sprouts. Hey, okay. All right. Brussels sprouts, moving on. So I will say, despite these seedings being done unilaterally, what we're looking at going into the second round here is 3 number 1 seeds moving on, and 1 number 4 seed, and then 2 number 2 seeds and 2 number 3 seeds. So that's like about what you would actually expect in a tournament in this way, I think. All right, so we're going back now to the root vegetable group and our second round matchup here. So the winner of this will win the root vegetable group. Is the number 2 seed rutabaga versus the number 4 seed maca root. So do you think that maca root can be a Cinderella story in this tournament because of how horny it makes you?
I honestly don't see any way maca root doesn't advance.
Whoa. Okay.
Again, a serving the size of the tip of your pinky makes you unbelievably horny. That's the most powerful vegetable. What brassica has more power than...
Well, arugula supposedly makes you horny,
you eat
too.
one bite
That's why
and
it's
you get
called
horny.
rocket, right? That is why it's called Rocket.
Is it?
I think so.
Is that something we've learned
I think we've learned that in a previous episode. Wow. Listen, I do believe that Rutabaga is mid, so I am willing to move Makaru as the Cinderella story of this tournament as a 4 seed into the final 4. But I don't think its horny elements can carry it further than that. We'll have to see, but I am willing to move Makaru only because I think Rutabaga is a weak 2 seed.
Maka has to move on.
All right.
It makes you horny.
Makes you horny, baby. All right. Makaru is coming out of the root vegetable group. Wow. Just shocking. All right. We're going over the spice group. We've got the number 1 seed mustard versus the number 3 seed wasabi. I see mustard versus wasabi is sort of mirroring the cabbage Brussels sprout matchup from the first round, where it's like, okay, mustard has like infinite variety, presentations, utilities, but wasabi does one thing perfectly.
You're saying it's a fox versus hedgehog.
I'm saying it's a cabbage versus Brussels sprouts all over again. But do you have thoughts on number 1 seed mustard versus 3 seed wasabi?
Yeah, as much as I love the taste of wasabi, I think mustard just has far more different applications.
Yeah, especially if you're, thinking about the mustard greens aspect as well. Yeah,
that's true. The seeds, the greens.
Yeah, I feel good about that. I would feel good about moving mustard on. Wasabi had a strong run in this tournament. I think it had upset in the first round, but I think mustard probably takes it down. Agreed?
Yeah.
All right, so we've got number 1 seed mustard coming out of the spice group. All right, so the next group we're going back to here is the greens group. We've got the 2 favorites in this group so far, the number 1 seed kale, the number 2 seed arugula. You did some research in the interim on arugula and horniness?
Well, you proposed an etymology for rocket.
Yeah.
And can you just restate that?
I'll restate it. I think that arugula is called rocket because of how your boners happen as a result.
This is something you think we learned previously?
This is going to be an indictment on my ability to learn things in general. But yes, I believe that we previously established that on the podcast CD Business.
Okay. I mean, the evidence I was able to find in 3 minutes on my phone indicates that the etymology of rocket comes from the Latin word eruca for caterpillar. So it's like a caterpillar plant.
Okay.
Either because it's covered in caterpillars or because like it's bristly. Yeah. Which shares a Proto-Indo-European root with a word that means bristly.
Oh.
So I don't think there's any reason to think it means horny. Basically, rocket made its way into English via Italian and French. French calling it roquette.
All right. Well, that's a nerd explanation. I just simply Googled.
Does arugula make you horny?
Arugula horniness. And the number 1 hit is Jaden Smith says eating arugula makes him horny. Jaden Smith, child of Will and Jada Pinkett Smith.
All right. Well, I guess if it makes one guy horny.
It makes one guy horny.
Then.
I think that settles it. One weird person horny. All right. Well, let's talk about number 1 seed kale versus number 2 seed arugula.
Again, I don't know how to get our own personal
I think this is
biases out of this.
I think this is in part in this part of the seeding. In the seeding of it, I tried to eliminate our personal biases, but I think our biases are part of the choosing the winners part that we're going with now. I mean, I think it's arugula in a blowout.
Yeah, I mean, I would basically always grow and eat arugula. If I had to pick between arugula and kale, it would basically always be arugula.
Yeah, the case you could make for kale is the case that we made before, where it is more robust.
It's more versatile too. You can eat it's more versatile in the sense of I don't find myself making a lot of arugula smoothies because it's too peppery. Like if you wanted it to be bland, you could make it bland.
Mm-hmm. Right. Kale, of course, the holding up to wetness issue. But I think, arugula can be like wilted in a way that is preferable to anything kale can do, as well as being better raw.
Yeah. It's good raw, it's good wilted, it's good cooked, and actually not to bring cress back into it, but it serves as a perfectly good substitute for cress in basically any recipe that would use that.
It's sort of this is an interesting redo of the first round matchup between kale and watercress, just with a stronger competitor instead of, and I think it's a competitor that wins in this case, I think.
Certainly for me, it does.
All right, we're moving on number 2.
Plus it makes, wait, who does it make horny?
Jaden Smith.
Okay.
And me. I'm just like Jaden Smith.
Yeah, in many ways.
I don't know how to I was trying to find a way to get the Will Smith slap into this, but I don't think.
We're several years too late for that to be topical.
No,
I'm not sure why.
Extremely topical. All right. Final group stage here. We're back in the heading group for the number 1 seed broccoli versus number 3 seed Brussels sprouts.
Well, how do you propose we think about this?
I don't know. So the cabbage Brussels sprout matchup was head versus gut, and I went with Brussels sprouts. And if I went head versus guts in this matchup, Brussels sprouts would move on as well.
Yeah, I agree.
I just, quite frankly, think that here's my argument. I think Brussels sprouts could win this whole tournament, but I don't think broccoli could win this whole tournament.
I think on the basis of it being a vegetable that is universally well liked and present on, many tables.
Yeah.
Broccoli's ahead. A lot of people don't like Brussels sprouts. They have many.
A lot of people don't like broccoli, though. Like a lot of kids, famously complain about broccoli. I guess they famously complain about Brussels sprouts too.
Yeah, even more so, I think.
That's a good point. I think that if you go to any decent restaurant in this country, the likelihood that there's a Brussels sprouts appetizer is quite high.
They're very hot right now.
Very hot. I personally would rather eat Brussels sprouts.
I personally also would rather eat Brussels sprouts.
I think we should move on Brussels sprouts.
All right.
All right, and moving on the number 3 seed Brussels sprouts. We've now got our final four. All right, so we've got
I'm trying to think of other sports.
Besides basketball?
Well, besides the ones that I've said something about.
Oh, you're trying to make other sports references?
Yeah. I don't know of any other sports.
We did just watch that clip of a hybrid of basketball and professional wrestling. So it's basketball, and it's like a Russian thing where it's basketball in all ways except... I'll try to link to the video of this. It's basketball in all ways except apparently if you take your shirt off, you're allowed to do a German suplex to another opponent. Do a classic wrestling move on them. Yeah,
you can try to block them like a normal basketball game, or you can rip off your shirt and then
wrap your arms around them and throw them over your head. Those are your options. Our final four here we've got now, coming out of the spice group, was the number 1 seed, mustard. Coming out of the greens group is the number 2 seed, arugula. Coming out of the heading group is the number 3 seed Brussels sprouts, and coming out of the root vegetable group, the Cinderella story, the number 4 seed maca root. So we ended up getting one of each seed in the final 4 here. So we first have to address the number 2 seed arugula versus the number 4 seed maca root. Now I feel like this stops the momentum of maca root squarely in its tracks, because arugula also makes you horny. That
it also makes Jaden Smith horny.
I just think that this finally...
Who else is made horny?
This finally neutralizes the advantage of maca root. Who else? I don't know. Me and Jaden Smith. Probably Gerald. Who's the big king of big veg? Gerald Stratford.
Well, arugula doesn't get big.
Gerald Stratford gets horny. Here's I'm like 7 ways to increase your libido and sex drive, says Healthline. Arugula is one of them. Cosmo says arugula is one of 11 aphrodisiac foods. There's all...
I would be interested to see, and I'm not saying we have to do this in order to, finish recording this podcast episode, but I would bet for literally any food, if you Googled, does X make you horny, you would be able to find a listicle that says 7 reasons why that food makes you horny.
What about like Takis?
Could be. Listen, I will concede that arugula makes you horny.
All right, well, in that case,
But does it make you hornier than maca?
Maybe not, but I think that just knocks the legs right out of maca root to me. I think maca root has to go home in the final 4. I think their Cinderella story is over. I think you cannot look me in the eyes and tell me that maca root should move instead of arugula. Think of our dead cat, Lucy.
I just need to know. I feel like we need to do some experiments to find out how horny.
All right, well, we could do that on a future pod.
Yeah, write that down. That's
all right.
A future
blind
episode.
Taste tests, blind horniness tests of various... We got to put it in capsules, though. We got to put Rocket in a capsule along with maca root. But I think, in your heart, arugula has to move on.
I know arugula has to move on. But I think you've rigged this competition, frankly.
Against maca root? You think I'm unfair? Maca root has made it through 2 rounds already, unexpectedly. It's had an incredible showing for what it is. Come on.
I just think there should be some investigation of potential malfeasance.
Oh my God. All right. Well, we'll go to arbitration. Number 2, arugula is moving on.
Wait, isn't Ron DeSantis trying to sue basketball for not
It was football.
Okay, it was a football thing.
The Florida football team didn't win a championship or something, and he's suing
It didn't go
them.
to a particular bowl
game. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We don't live in Florida anymore, guys.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah. All right, number 2, arugula is in the championship, and I'm not surprised. Okay, on the other side of this bracket, we've got the number 1 seed out of the spice group, mustard, versus the number 3 seed, Brussels sprouts. I'd be willing to hear an argument for either of these.
If you had to give up one of these 2 things for the rest of your life and never eat them again.
That's a interesting way of framing that. Boy, I don't think I would like to give up mustard for the rest of my life.
Me neither. Yeah.
Yeah, again, of all the initial 16 seeds, if you said to me, what is the perfect dish of food? I would say like roasted caramelized Brussels sprouts would be the perfect food. But again, it may not go further than the final 4 because that's what it brings to the table. It's gotten past 2 strong opponents in cabbage and broccoli on the basis of its sort of platonic ideal form, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't know, its run might end here against mustard.
I think it's hard to beat mustard from the perspective of if you had to give up one of these. We consume mustard just more often than we consume Brussels sprouts by a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it makes me want to. Sometimes I eat just mustard on crackers, first of all. It makes me want to go get some right now. Yeah, I think it's got to be mustard. It's hard because these are all strong competitors now at this point. We're
maca.
You're the one who was in favor.
Well, I know, but I didn't think you believed it was a strong competitor.
Well, that was the weakest group stage, but I mean, it did a good job. I think we should move mustard.
Yeah,
into the finals.
So it's mustard versus arugula.
Mustard versus
That's the
arugula.
Final.
So we've got 1 seed mustard versus 2 seed arugula in the finals. What do you think?
I don't know how to make this determination, frankly.
Well,
what should we be considering here?
Here's what I'll say.
Which one wants it more? That's what sports commentators would be focused on, right? It's about who wants it.
Yeah.
Who wants to win?
Well, because we need to ask. That's what they fail to do. They fail to ask the players how much they want it.
They should be asking them ahead of time how much they want it.
Like rank on a scale of 1 to 10 how much you want it. And then why even play the game? You can just award it based on how much they want.
And then they don't have to afterwards talk to the players and have them say
want it enough.
And have them say like they just wanted it more. Well, you could have determined that from the outset.
Here's what I'll say.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you want it?
In the same way that I think arugula neutralizes the maca root strength of horniness, it also to some degree neutralizes the spiciness benefit of mustard. Like obviously mustard is very versatile, but arugula is spicy is all I'm saying. And that cuts into the benefits of mustard a little bit.
I mean, the reality is that as plants, okay, I haven't ever eaten arugula seeds, but like arugula has easily harvested seeds, peppery greens that can be eaten raw or cooked. Mustard also has edible seeds and peppery greens that can be eaten raw or cooked. Like as a plant, we've converged on 2 extremely similar options.
Well,
as an overall
they're all
plant.
brassicas.
Like I wonder, but I mean, even of the brassicas, right? Like these are 2 of the most similar coming in from totally different regions.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you could make a sauce out of arugula seeds.
Maybe we should give it a try.
Well, it might be a while before we grow arugula again in this urban high rise where we're living now.
It's true. That being said.
Oh, wow. Here's a historical recipe for roast beef with arugula seed sauce.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I think that might be a real thing.
I mean, we could definitely get some arugula seed. That's not a problem. I think we can try this.
I don't know if I need to. I just wanted to know if it what it would, whether they were effectively interchangeable to some pretty great extent.
Yeah. I'm going to say this right now. I think arugula should win.
Well, I know you think arugula should win. That's why I said you rigged the competition.
If I rigged the competition, then arugula would not have had to. First of all, it's not a 1 seed, it's a 2 seed. It had to fight its way out of a strong group with the number 1 seed kale and against collard greens. It had a number of real competitors to go up against. I don't think I would have put it fucking against a turnip or something if I wanted it to have an easy road to the championship.
Wow. You've really crafted a narrative here. You're a real sports commentator.
Well, make it.
Plus, arugula wanted it the whole time. It's been wanting it so much.
Make a case for mustard if you think it should be mustard.
No, I'm just saying these are virtually indistinguishable plants. That's my point.
Which one of these things would our cat more like to eat?
Our dead cat?
Yes.
Were she alive?
Were she alive? Which one?
Arugula.
Arugula it is! Arugula comes out the victor of Mulch Madness Brassket-Buster Cruciferous Championship 2024. Congratulations to Arugula. It wanted it the most.
Incredible game, folks. Incredible game.
Yeah, this was worth doing. And I guess according to the conceit we've created, this is the podcast from now on.
Yeah, we'll be doing this again next time.
All right. Looking forward to it. Bye.
Bye.
It's city business. It's city business.